Forget the princes and princesses. This is the real story of Disney. A brutal 100-year corporate war fought for one thing: to own your childhood. Walt Disney lost his first character, a rabbit named Oswald, to a ruthless distributor. That moment of betrayal wasn't a setback. It was the birth of a strategy. Walt decided he wouldn't just make films, he would build a system immune to failure. From controlling the law of the land with his own private county in Florida, to paying over $20 billion for Marvel and Star Wars, Disney didn't succeed because of magic. They succeeded because they systematically eliminated risk, owned every piece of cultural memory, and controlled the entire delivery system. The question is, are you ready to see the code behind the magic? The first betrayal: how losing a rabbit forced Disney to monopolize imagination. 1901-1930s. Walt Disney wasn't just a cartoonist. He was a strategic genius who understood that in the new industrial age, the most powerful monopoly wouldn't be built on steel or oil, but on emotion and memory. While the Rockefellers focused on pipelines, Disney set his sights on controlling the single most valuable, yet intangible resource: the heart of every child in America. This entire empire, the parks, the films, the global merchandise, was founded on a spectacular, humiliating failure. This failure gave birth to his foundational strategic pillar, the code of character ownership and perpetual scarcity, the Oswald betrayal, a million-dollar mistake. In the late 1920s, Disney's first major success was a whimsical, clever character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Disney poured his soul into Oswald, creating 26 highly popular shorts. He arrived in New York in 1928, confidently seeking a raise for his successful work, only to face a brutal betrayal by his distributor, Charles Mintz. Mintz delivered the crushing blow. "We have secured the rights to Oswald, and by the way, we've poached your entire team of animators. You have nothing." This moment of utter collapse was the single most defining event in Disney's corporate history. He returned home to Los Angeles with two ironclad rules that would dictate every strategic decision the company ever made. 1. Never work for someone else's IP. 2. Total control over the character is paramount. The strategic birth of Mickey Mouse. On the train ride home, fueled by rage and desperation, Disney began sketching a new character, one that he would own absolutely and legally. He called him Mickey Mouse. Launched later that year in the short film Steamboat Willie, 1928, Mickey was an instant global sensation. Why? Because Disney realized the character alone wasn't enough. The delivery system had to be revolutionary. Steamboat Willie was one of the first animated cartoons to feature perfectly synchronized sound, turning a simple sketch into a magical, immersive experience that no competitor could immediately match. The licensing code: ubiquity as a weapon. The genius wasn't just creating Mickey, it was immediately understanding his value as a brand asset. Desperate for cash during the Great Depression, Disney was forced to license Mickey's image for merchandise. He licensed everything from school pencil cases to wristwatches. This was not a distraction from his films. It was a strategic engine. Financial shield. Merchandise revenue poured in, providing the financial capital to keep the entire studio afloat during the worst economic downturn. Cultural ubiquity. Mickey Mouse became a standardized symbol of American culture, instantly recognizable everywhere. This ubiquity made him feel like a necessity, rather than just an entertainment choice. The quality feedback loop. Disney took the merchandise money and plowed it directly back into creating higher quality, more expensive films, like Snow White. This created a strategic moat. The public expected the Disney standard, and only the merchandise-funded Disney studio could afford to deliver it. By the time the 1930s ended, Disney had turned a betrayal into the foundation of an empire. He proved that owning the IP and ensuring its constant presence in every corner of life was the only way to build a true emotional monopoly.
The Million-Dollar Madness: How Snow White Built an Impossible Barrier Around the Disney Empire, 1930s-1940s. By the early 1930s, Mickey Mouse was a cultural phenomenon. Yet Walt Disney knew that cultural fame was fleeting. The competition could easily launch their own charismatic characters, and the character monopoly would crumble. To secure perpetual dominance, Disney had to transition from controlling a character to controlling the entire definition of quality within the animation industry. This necessity gave rise to his second, more dangerous strategic pillar, the code of unmatched quality and the barrier of obsession. The Hollywood laugh, Disney's folly. In 1934, Disney announced his intention to create Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the world's first full-length animated feature film. Hollywood scoffed. They called it Disney's folly, convinced that audiences would never sit through 80 minutes of mere cartoons. Bankers refused to fund it. The common wisdom was clear. Cartoons were cheap, short filler, not expensive, feature-length spectacles. But Disney was not motivated by common wisdom. He was motivated by the desire to build a moat so deep, so expensive, and so technically complex that no rival studio could ever hope to cross it. This film was a calculated, colossal gamble to eliminate all competition by raising the standard to an impossible height. The multiplane barrier. Engineering emotion. To achieve this impossible quality, Disney knew simple flat animation wouldn't work. The film had to feel cinematic. His solution was an innovation that defined the next 50 years of animation, the multiplane camera. The technology. This was not a simple camera. It was a massive, multi-tiered vertical apparatus where layers of painted artwork and backgrounds were placed on separate panes of glass, spaced far apart. The camera then shot down through all the layers. The strategic impact. This produced a revolutionary illusion of three-dimensional depth and parallax, giving Disney films a visual richness and immersion that simply did not exist elsewhere. When the camera panned through a forest, it truly felt like a living environment. This invention was Disney's structural weapon. 1. The emotional benchmark. The exquisite detail and deep visuals created an unspoken emotional contract with the audience. The public now expected animated films to be beautiful, moving, and technically flawless. This effectively rendered the competition's simple, flat cartoons obsolete overnight. To the financial barrier. The multiplane camera was incredibly expensive to design and build. Furthermore, the process demanded hundreds of specialized artists working for 3 years. Disney financed this massive undertaking almost entirely with the money generated from Mickey Mouse merchandise, a financial lifeline no competitor possessed. When Snow White premiered in 1937, it was a sensation, quickly becoming the highest-grossing film of its time. It proved that quality could justify high prices and massive production costs. Disney didn't just win, he changed the rules of the game. He successfully encoded the animation process, making his studio the only place capable of delivering this level of cinematic magic.
The physical code. How Disney turned films into an invulnerable real estate monopoly, 1950s. By the 1950s, Walt Disney had secured 2 monopolies. The character monopoly, Mickey, and the quality monopoly, feature films. But he still lacked total control over the consumer's experience. People would watch his films, but then they'd step back into the chaotic, unscripted real world, a world that was decidedly non-Disney. Disney was obsessed with making people live inside his world. This necessity gave rise to his third revolutionary strategic move, the code of controlled synergy and the physical experience monopoly. The grand bet, an asset, not an amusement park. When Disneyland opened in California in 1955, it was met with disbelief. It wasn't designed as a simple amusement park. It was conceived as the physical, tangible manifestation of the company's intellectual property, IP. Previously, people paid for a Mickey Mouse watch because it reminded them of a film. Now, they would pay an admission fee to literally walk inside the film. Disneyland engineered a powerful financial and cultural synergy loop that redefined the entertainment industry. Films promote the park. Every new film, e.g. Peter Pan, added new thematic attractions, e.g. Peter Pan's Flight, which created a constant new incentive for people to visit the park. Park promotes merchandise. A souvenir purchased inside the perfectly crafted environment of Disneyland became an emotional artifact, giving that piece of merchandise a value far exceeding a simple store-bought toy. The Code of Absolute Control. Disney fundamentally rejected the prevailing ethos of the messy, chaotic, and often unsafe amusement parks of the era. Disneyland had to be immaculately clean, safe, and beautiful. This commitment to perfection was his most potent competitive tool, a monopoly of atmosphere. The control code manifested in meticulous detail. 1. Immaculate environment. Trash cans were strategically placed every 30 feet, the distance a person would walk before discarding litter on the ground. This was not about housekeeping. It was about controlling the consumer's subconscious interaction with the brand. 2. Character regulation. Characters were rigorously trained and controlled. No Mickey was allowed to smoke or behave improperly. The integrity of the IP was protected at all costs in the physical realm. This operational standard created an unassailable competitive moat. No existing park could match the seamless blend of theme, cleanliness, and operational control, making Disneyland the only place a family could go for that guaranteed, controlled quality experience. The masterpiece of media finance. The massive capital needed to build Disneyland was initially rejected by banks. Disney, the great strategist, turned to the rapidly expanding new medium, television. He convinced the ABC network to finance the park's construction in exchange for a new television program, Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Disney. This strategy was brilliant for 2 reasons. Financing. He used ABC's money to build the physical asset. Marketing. The show he produced for ABC simultaneously served as permanent, nationwide free advertising for Disneyland, showcasing the attractions and themes under construction. By controlling the park, the TV screen, the cinema, and the merchandise shelves, Disney cemented the synergy monopoly, a system where every part of the business fueled and protected every other part, making the whole corporate structure far more valuable and resilient than the sum of its individual parts.
The Real Estate Code? How Disney bought his own laws to build a kingdom immune to competition, 1967 to 1980s. Disneyland was a monumental success, but it faced a fundamental strategic flaw. Walt Disney did not control the land around the park. Once visitors left the gates, they were instantly confronted with tacky motels, fast food joints, and uncontrolled commercial chaos, the very antithesis of the Disney ideal. The local government and zoning restrictions further hampered any vision for long-term holistic expansion. For the ultimate expression of control, Disney concluded that he couldn't just build a park. He had to build a sovereign state, a legal and physical monopoly over the very ground the experience stood upon. This demanded his 4th, most audacious strategic pillar, the Code of Sovereign Land Ownership and Perpetual Legislative Immunity. The Secret Acquisition, a land as large as Manhattan. Beginning in the mid-1960s, Disney initiated one of the most brilliant and secretive land deals in modern corporate history. To prevent price gouging and public speculation, he used a network of shell companies and fake names, like Tomahawk Properties and Reedy Creek Ranch, to quietly purchase over 27,000 acres of swamp and citrus groves in central Florida. This landmass was roughly the size of the island of Manhattan. The maneuver, later known as the Florida land grab, kept the final price low and secured the scale necessary for absolute control. The ultimate strategic moat, the Reedy Creek Improvement District. The true genius lay not in the land purchase, but in the legislative agreement that followed. In 1967, Disney successfully lobbied the Florida State Legislature to create the Reedy Creek Improvement District, RCID. The RCID was not a business deal. It was the creation of a quasi-governmental entity that granted Disney the power of a county government over his own territory. This unprecedented arrangement provided 2 critical, long-lasting competitive advantages. 1. Legislative immunity. RCID granted Disney authority over land use, planning, zoning, utilities, infrastructure, and even the ability to issue tax-exempt bonds for construction. This meant Disney could build roads, regulate its own property taxes, and set its own building codes without interference from external local governments. The Perpetual Growth Code. By controlling the law of the land, Disney guaranteed that his massive expansion plans, including multiple theme parks, hotels, and infrastructure, could be executed seamlessly and perpetually, free from political red tape, corruption, or zoning challenges. He was no longer a corporation asking for permission. He was the authority. The vision of Epcot, a controlled society. The original vision for Disney World's centerpiece, Epcot, experimental prototype community of tomorrow, reflected this desire for total control. It was planned not just as a theme park, but as a fully functioning, constantly evolving, and heavily controlled city. While the city concept was eventually scaled back, the strategic intent remained: to create a laboratory for his ideas and a physical environment where every single variable was dictated by the Disney Code, protecting the brand's integrity and value forever. By controlling the law and the land, Disney built a corporate kingdom structurally immune to the economic, political, and commercial pressures that limit every other competitor on the planet.
The corporate code. How Walt's death exposed the empire and forced the strategy of rebranding. 1966-1984. The Disney Code was, fundamentally, the code of a single man, Walt Disney. He was the character, the quality guarantor, the legal strategist, and the visionary. When Walt passed away unexpectedly in 1966, the empire was left with an unfinished strategic masterpiece. Disney World was still under construction, and a crippling institutional vulnerability. The code of the founder had died. This necessitated the fifth reactive strategic pillar, the code of self-preservation, and the transition from creator to corporation, the post-Walt freeze, the crisis of creativity. The corporate culture immediately shifted from Walt's visionary, risk-taking obsession to a conservative defensiveness known internally as the widow's defense. The surviving executives, fearing they would destroy Walt's legacy, became fiercely protective of the existing assets, Mickey, the classic films, and the parks. This defense mechanism had a dual strategic effect. Positive, it ensured the stability of the core IP. The company meticulously guarded the standards of cleanliness and quality established by Walt in the theme parks, and preserved the sanctity of the classic animated vault. Negative, the strategic stagnation. The company virtually stopped taking creative risks. For nearly 2 decades, 1966 to 1984, Disney produced few original animated hits and failed to engage with the rapidly changing youth culture. The company became a cultural artifact, beloved but strategically obsolete in the modern market. The strategic failure to diversify. While competitors like Universal and Warner Brothers were rapidly moving into television, adult content, and cutting-edge cinema, Disney refused. Their core market was the family, and the executives clung rigidly to the notion that the brand could not be diluted. This strategic rigidity created an enormous exposure. One box office dependency. The company became dangerously reliant on re-releasing its old classic films every 7 years. Once those films were depleted, the revenue dried up. The pirate problem. With no new content and the classics deliberately kept locked away in a vault, the emerging technology of the VCR, video cassette recorder, was ignored. This was a strategic blunder akin to Blockbuster ignoring streaming later on. Disney missed the opportunity to monetize the home video market because they feared it would devalue the theatrical experience. The Raiders at the gates, the near collapse. By the early 1980s, the failure of the widow's defense became evident. Financially weak and creatively barren, the company became an easy target. Corporate raiders, most notably Saul Steinberg, launched an aggressive takeover bid. The value of the company was based almost entirely on the intrinsic untapped value of Walt's creations, the animation library, and the vast, legally protected Florida land, RCID. The company was saved only by the strategic defensive measures, like the RCID and the strong IP protection Walt had put in place, allowing the board just enough time to maneuver. This near-death experience forced the board to finally accept that the corporate code had to change. They needed a strategic outsider who could monetize the IP legacy that had been locked away for 2 decades. The stage was set for the arrival of Michael Eisner, the architect who would teach the Disney Code How to Master the Media Age.
The Vertical Integration Code, How Michael Eisner Weaponized the IP Vault and Conquered the Media Age, 1984-2005. By 1984, the Disney Code was failing. The empire was creatively stagnant, protected only by the vast, untapped value of Walt's classic IP and his legally impenetrable Florida land. The successful defense against corporate raiders proved one thing: the company had to stop guarding the vault and start monetizing the legacy. This necessitated the sixth strategic pillar, driven by the new CEO, Michael Eisner: the Code of Vertical Integration and Aggressive IP Exploitation. The Strategic Revolution, Marketing the Vault. Eisner's strategy was not about creating new characters instantly. It was about strategically unlocking the value of the existing ones. He viewed the classic animation library, Pinocchio, Bambi, Cinderella, not as sacred art, but as dormant billion-dollar assets. His first masterstroke was turning the VCR, which Disney had previously ignored, into a core revenue stream. He instituted the Disney Vault marketing strategy, the scarcity tactic. Classic films were released on VHS DVD for a limited time, creating artificial demand and urgency. Consumers rushed to buy the films, fearing they would be locked away for 7 years. The financial engine. This strategy turned the existing IP into a massive, recurring, and low-cost revenue generator, providing the massive cash reserves needed for expansion. The synergy weapon, control. Every channel Eisner recognized that the old synergy loop, film right arrow park right arrow merchandise, was too slow. In the modern media age, Disney needed vertical integration, control over every channel that delivered content. The goal was to ensure that a dollar spent on Disney IP flowed back to Disney, regardless of the consumer's location. Film Renaissance, the creative engine. Eisner hired Jeffrey Katzenberg and revitalized the animation studio, producing a new wave of hits, The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, that were specifically designed to be easily translated into park attractions and merchandise. 2. The media network acquisition, the distribution engine. The most significant step was the acquisition of Capital Cities ABC in 1995. This massive $19 billion deal gave Disney ownership of a major television network, ABC, multiple cable channels, ESPN, and hundreds of radio stations. This acquisition codified the vertical integration strategy. When a child watched The Lion King, Disney earned revenue from the film ticket. When the child bought the toy, Disney earned merchandise revenue. When the parent watched the advertisement for the film on ESPN, Disney earned ad revenue from ESPN, which Disney owned. The code's dark side, financial exploitation. This aggressive exploitation maximized profits but strained relationships. Eisner's strategy was criticized for being too financially focused, squeezing maximum profit from every corner of the business. The creative genius of Walt was replaced by the financial genius of Eisner. The company was no longer selling dreams. It was selling highly efficient, interconnected product lines. By the end of Eisner's tenure, he had transformed the Walt Disney Company from a stagnant theme park owner into a diversified, vertically integrated global media giant whose strategic blueprint became the gold standard for every media conglomerate that followed.
The Acquisition Code. How Robert Iger paid $21 billion to own your childhood and secure the ultimate media monopoly. 2005 present. Michael Eisner had successfully executed the Vertical Integration Code, rebuilding Disney's financial structure and maximizing the returns from Walt's original IP. But by the 2000s, the digital age posed a new threat. The audience was fracturing. The cable TV model was dying, and Disney's core strength, its classic IP, was aging. The company had maximized the old assets. Now they needed new assets, new characters, new worlds, and new generations of IP that could fuel the synergy loop for the next century. This necessitated the final, most aggressive strategic pillar, driven by CEO Robert Iger, the Code of Strategic Acquisition and Digital Supremacy. The billion-dollar IP shopping spree. Iger recognized that creating new enduring IP from scratch was too slow and too risky. The only way to guarantee market dominance was to simply buy the best competitors. and integrate them into the Disney Code's distribution machine. Iger did not negotiate, he bought cultural legends. 1. Pixar, 2006, $7.4 billion. A strategic necessity, Pixar provided cutting-edge, new-generation animation quality and a steady stream of highly original, emotionally rich IP, Toy Story, Finding Nemo, that the stagnant internal Disney animation studio could no longer deliver. The acquisition immediately secured the future quality monopoly. To Marvel, 2009, $4 billion. A culture shock. Marvel provided a vast, interconnected, and perpetual universe of characters and stories that could be endlessly monetized across films, TV, parks, and merchandise. The ultimate expression of continuous IP supply. 3. Lucasfilm, 2012, $4 billion. The purchase of Star Wars and Indiana Jones secured the ultimate multi-generational IP. Crucially, it gave Disney a sci-fi fantasy universe that was perfect for international park expansion and a perpetual stream of movies and merchandise. The total bill was over $21 billion, but the strategic return was exponential. Iger bought $21 billion worth of guaranteed future revenue, insulating Disney from the risks of creative failure. The final battle, the streaming code. Having secured the content, the final move was to control the delivery. The traditional cable TV model, the backbone of Eisner's strategy, was collapsing. Iger's final mandate was to transition from being a content supplier to a cable company, like Netflix, and establish the code of digital direct-to-consumer control. The launch of Disney Plus in 2019 was the ultimate expression of the Disney Code. 1. Direct relationship. Disney bypassed all middlemen, creating a direct subscription-based financial relationship with the customer. 2. IP leverage. The platform was built entirely on the deep catalog of acquired IP, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, and Walt's originals. It proved the value of the acquisitions instantly. Synergy redefined. Disney Plus now acts as the primary driver for all other business units. A new Disney Plus series promotes a park visit, which sells merchandise which funds the next Disney Plus film. The synergy loop is now closed, digital and global. The Disney Code has evolved from Walt's simple idea of owning a mouse to Iger's complex global strategy of owning every major piece of non-controversial cultural IP, securing the emotional monopoly for the 21st century. The legacy is clear. Disney doesn't just entertain the world. It has methodically acquired the right to define its childhood.